he's doing that, shall we join in the words? We gather
this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Intern Minister Rita Capezzi, proud and honored to serve this congregation through June 2018, and happy to be back among you after some time away. And as always, I am humbled and astonished that I have found Unitarian Universalist faith, a saving faith of compassion and justice, of covenant and struggle. And friends, I am grateful, so grateful that we are here together to share this religious tradition, this path of spiritual strengthening as preparation for the work of justice in a hurting world. So we now enter a quiet time of prayer, meditation, and reflection. So let's settle our bodies and our minds. And let's breathe together. Lingering in this moment. Lingering in the feelings of our hearts. Let us breathe together. Sharing this moment. Sharing in this loving community with feelings from our hearts. Let us breathe together. In the words of Mother Teresa, love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service. Whatever form we are, abled or disabled, rich or poor, it is not how much we do, but how much love we put into the doing. A lifelong sharing of love with others. Let us breathe together, lingering in this moment, lingering in the feelings of our hearts just as we are. Let us breathe together, sharing this moment, sharing in this loving community the feelings of our hearts, just as we are. Let us breathe together, whole and loved, just as we are. So, friends, I'm going to reflect on our first hymn today. We're going to sit at the welcome table. I've reflected on this hymn before. You might recall, I don't know if you remember that. It's quite an old song that has been morphed and reused over long years. It started as a song of spiritual solace for a people enslaved. Started with Africans transported to North America by Euro-Americans. By Euro-Americans intending to steal their labor on the way to stealing their humanity. This song reimagines the frame of Christian redemption. Enslaved Africans have a place at the celestial table of the Last Judgment. Black people equal with white people, part of the very body of God. Sounds like the story of universal salvation, of the unity underlying humanity. I'm going to sit at the welcome table is the civil rights movement version of this song. This song sings of being beaten away from lunch counters and water fountains. This song sings of political action, of refusing to move to the back of the bus, refusing to give up a seat to a white person just because that person is white. Black people no longer enslaved, but not yet treated with full dignity. And we have our own Unitarian Universalist version in the Singing a Living Tradition hymnal, a version arranged by Reverend Mary Allen Walden, a white woman and an ordained minister of music. This version, as we just sang, highlights all kinds of people at the table with no fancy style to class us apart from each other. In our tradition, we proclaim neither class nor race is going to keep us from sitting together and shouting hallelujah together. Nothing will keep us from shouting hallelujah together. Except maybe ourselves. We Unitarian Universalists are not really known for shouting hallelujah. Nobody shouted it with me just a minute ago. In fact, not a few of us might feel suspicious of putting our arms in the air for the Holy Spirit. Now we sing Spirit of Life every week. But that Spirit's a little disembodied, a little lacking in physical expression. Maybe a little anemic. We're going to sing it anyway next week. There's something else to wrestle with in all the welcome table songs. And that's that final line, pensive and haunting. We're going to sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days. Not now. When will that time come, I wonder? I'm going to take us back in time now. Not too far back. Just about a year ago. You'd have to be a sleepy, snoring Rip Van Winkle to have missed the crude and clueless tweets blasted from the cell phone of the current President of the United States. And among the rank atrociousness of so many of these tweets, I recall one in particular. This one. Frederick Douglass is an example of somebody who's done an amazing job and is getting recognized more and more, I notice. Did you hear that present tense? Like Mr. Trump doesn't know Frederick Douglass passed from life more than a century ago. Oh, Mr. Trump, we throw our arms in the air. Spirit of life, give us fortitude. Now more than ever. Now, in the more distant past, Frederick Douglass was an amazing man, with a stature deserving of statues, of which there are more than a few, right up the road in Rochester. This year is the 200th anniversary of the date Douglass claimed for his own birth, February 14, 1818. As an enslaved person, he didn't know exactly when he was born. He picked his own birthday. A steering committee in Rochester has planned celebrations of Douglass's newspaper, the North Star, and commemorations of his abolition work with the likes of Susan B. Anthony. And these celebrations and commemorations will last a whole year long, as well they should. Frederick Douglass Douglas was a force to be reckoned with, and his legacy lives for us today, and more locally than we might realize. Back a bit farther now in time. In 1857, Frederick Douglass gave a speech right here in the city of Canandaigua. There are reports of parades during his visit, but no record of the location of his speech. Douglass was observing the 23rd anniversary of the abolition of slavery in the West Indies, and he proclaimed words that prefigured the Civil War. Words that echo for us today, even in Facebook memes. Hear his words. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who propose to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the mighty roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one. And it may be both physical and moral, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. These are Douglass's words. And he said, nothing without struggle, moral or physical or both. Power concedes nothing without a demand. In this world, we pay with labor and suffering, with sacrifice, and perhaps our very lives if we are to get free from that which oppresses. Douglass doesn't pull any punches as he calls us, even today, into action. 160 years ago, and these words mark a personal and a communal call to action, significant in this very place, in this town, in this part of New York State. Back in 1857, Canandaigua did not have a Unitarian or a Universalist church of its own. But Universalist churches were abundant in towns all over Ontario County and surrounding counties. So imagine with me, picture as if from an aerial view, the lakes, Ontario, and Canandaigua and Seneca, and Honeoye and Canisius. Picture the rivers, Genesee and West and Clyde, their tributaries flowing into these lakes. And the many towns on their shores and banks, Victor and Bloomfield, Perry and Fairport, Geneva, Canisius, Newark and Bristol and Rochester, of course. The Finger Lakes region of New York was a watershed of universalism among the farms and the grange towns, supplying the milk and apples and beef and more to the tables of New York City and Boston. Douglass calls for action, calls for a recognition of universal brotherhood, wrought only through struggle, right here in the land of the Universalists. God is love. We are all saved. Let's all sit at the welcome table. Now imagine with me. Picture this land as if from an aerial view. Streams of running away men and women and children, flowing along the riverbanks and lake shores, coursing north under cover of protective night, following the drinking board, following the North Star, guided by Douglass's North Star. Picture a people battered and bloody from the struggles of living and of getting free. A people people moving over a land running with the blood of other battles, of the Haudenosaunee whose lands were stolen, whose mothers weep rivers of tears for their devastated plans. Some are saved, some are lost, some flow right across Lake Ontario and into Canada. Who exactly is sitting at the welcome table? Are we? Imagine with me, picture this land, not from an aerial view, but down here on the ground, part of the fabric of fighting and dying, of running and staying alive, part of this struggle, not apart from it. In 1992, this congregation, this congregation was imagined into being. Some of the earliest meetings held in a former hospital morgue. From death springs life and living. In this building, we build our community edged by the soybean fields and the dairy farms. Cooley Road connects to Bloomfield Road and the next road to Canandaigua, that small plot of ancestral land left in the hands of the Seneca Nation. Cooley Road connects to Buffalo Road and Main Street in downtown Canandaigua, where Douglas gave his call to action by struggle. Yet we were not there for these poignant and tragic events, for the losses, for the bleeding, for the needful assertion of humanity. We were not there. And so we might presume no relationship with people so oppressed and traumatized by the violence of power. We are a young congregation. Such a funny thing to say in the presence of so much gray hair. We pride ourselves on being a liberal bastion in a red county. We feel a little risky. But we are good and warm and welcoming. There is no doubt of it. Next week is Potluck Sunday, and I have no doubt at all that there will be, and neither does Andrea, Karen, and there will be enough and more at that table for all of us and all visitors who might occupy the seat of that unexpected guest. We hold our arms open wide to any and all. Yet who is not sitting among us? Whose voices are not present, not singing joyfully along with us? Whose bodies must we make a seat for, imagining them into our presence? We were not here when Douglas rallied the abolitionists, when the enslaved ran. We were not here when the Haudenosaunee found their democratic principles used against them by the Anglo-Americans. But we are here now. We are a part of the fabric of this small patch of terrain open between the watery ways. We are on and not above the interdependent web of all existence. We are part of the web, not apart from it. All the violence done to the people enslaved, to the Haudenosaunee, to the migrant workers of Mexico and Guatemala hiding right now from the forces of ICE, that violence affects us, morally for certain, if not physically too. God is love and all are saved. Here in this congregation, our arms are wide open and we are a warm and welcoming people. And still people of color have not joined us. Why have they not come? What if we are not at the welcome table? What might we unwittingly do to push ourselves away because we somehow fail to have compassion for the hurts we do not hold in our own bodies? When Frederick Douglass gave his speech in Canandaigua, he told another story that has become famous, though it is not something you will find in a Facebook meme. Douglass recalled the story of Margaret Garner, an enslaved woman who killed her own child rather than have that child enslaved. Toni Morrison honored this horrific choice in her novel, Beloved. All the mothers in my circle defend their children from harm. We love our children fiercely, even ferociously, all of us, black and white and brown. But when a mother of sons is black, when a mother's sons are black, her love is burdened in ways white mothers like me with white sons cannot know. I tell this story with permission, with names altered, and I've told this story before. How does it feel today? Shortly after 12-year-old Tamir Rice was murdered in Cleveland by police, Colleen had a series of recurrent dreams that she had serially, reliving after she awoke from her nightmare, only to dream again. She is walking her dog at her street corner, and the rowdy bar across the way is surrounded by the flashing lights of police cars. Nothing to see, just some drunken frat boy fight. Then in the distance, she sees her son Jamie running toward her. Jamie is 13, and he is running in his goofy way, arms mostly up in his shirt sleeves, flapping and zigzagging from one side of the sidewalk to the other. Colleen has told him repeatedly not to run like that anytime police are around. But he keeps coming toward her, and Colleen becomes aware that one of the white police officers has raised his head and is looking at her son. And in her dream, he puts his hand on his holster. And in her dream, she screams, "Jamie, stop now!" And everything gets loud around her. And then she wakes up. And as she's falling asleep, the dream begins again. I have a white son, just a little older than Jamie, and I worried about him as a teenager. I worried, would he have friends? I worried, would he sustain a head injury in some stupid prank? I worried, would he develop a drug problem? I worried, would he grow up to be a good man? I never, not once worried that he would be viewed as a threat by the police and shot in the streets while acting a child. I never had to think about that because we are white. Colleen has to think about it all the time, even when she sleeps. I love Colleen and I love Jamie, and I cannot experience what they experience. I can't turn from it either. I am obligated to struggle with myself, to feel what Colleen can't help but feel. Feelings that are pushed violently upon her by a culture that sees her skin as a threat. We are on the web together, my friends. What affects Colleen affects me as well, affects us all, though not in the same ways. Colleen and I, we live along the same river share a physical geography and the emotional terrain of loving our children. We all of us share a geography. We are linked by land and water. We share an emotional terrain, linked by loving our families, by feeling the aching in our bones as we age. We're linked by shopping for groceries and taking some exercise, by walking our dogs and feeding our betta fish. Can you feel yourself, friends, part of, not apart from, the great interconnected web? Can you struggle with your compassionate hearts, holding the sorrows of those who share your country, your town, your neighborhood, if not your life experience? Can you promise, friends, to open yourselves to the ever-creative unity underlying our humanity? Can you help each other in this struggle? Can we struggle to truly set a table for those whom we may not have fully welcomed as we might, as we should? Can we do this struggle together? Can you promise this, friends, today and every day, as you remember that you are loved, you are welcome, you are worthy, and you are needed? May you feel it so.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.